Hello, everyone, to my new podcast, Discover Your Divine Talents. My name is Alena, and I've been thinking about creating this podcast for a while. And I decided to open it because I have a lot to share. So I've been on spiritual journey for quite a few years. So I've been looking into various dimensions of spirituality. I am a certified yoga teacher, so I have been very deeply immersed in the yoga philosophy and yoga teachings, as well as practical aspects of yoga, including asanas, pranayamas, and meditations. So, my favorite parts of yoga, as opposed to many yoga practitioners, is meditation because that is something that truly transforms our identity and our minds. So, the purpose of this podcast, as I see it now, is to discover our divine talents and to discover our divine identity. So, what do I mean by that? I think that the world is more complex than we are used to think. We are spiritual creatures that live on earth temporarily. So that is what you hear a lot in the spiritual literature. So we have our true identity, that is our divine soul, and we have our personality, our egoistic self, and that is our identity on planet Earth. So we are experiencing reincarnations. So we are being reborn, and every time we are born to experience new challenges, new dimensions of life, and supposedly we are supposed to develop new skills, and we are supposed to develop new thinking and new abilities. Okay, so what is the most important in this path? I think the biggest challenge most people experience is, so how do we discover who we really are? So what is our unique and authentic self? Can we really uh, mistake our egoistic self for the uh, divine self? And are we really different from our personalities? These are really challenging questions. So, how do how did I come to these questions? So, throughout my life, I have experienced various dimensions of spirituality, but I think the biggest challenge for me was after I turned 30, was to experience life and ask myself, so what are the meaning of existence? What is the purpose of living? And I experienced some health challenges. I experienced some challenges in relation to relocation to a new country. I experienced also lack of meaning. And a lot of these questions are not only very common, but it's really very hard to find suitable or meaningful answers to them. So I remember going to a psychologist some time ago, and we were discussing the meaning of life. We were discussing the meaning of existence. Where are we going? How can I figure out what is going with me and my body? And she said, you have a lot of questions, you have a lot of things that bother you, but you won't be able to find any answers to these questions. So I was shocked in a way that she said it. And at that point, I certainly realized that conventional approach to psychology is not exactly reflecting my internal beliefs and how I see the world. I'm more of a spiritual person, and unfortunately, conventional psychological approaches are not very spiritual. So psychology is a science, and it doesn't reflect other dimensions of life apart from our material world and our material bodies, right? So, in a way, I came to a realization that I'm frustrated with the explanations I got from conventional psychologists, from some readings I did in philosophy as well. And at that point, I came across a few yoga teachings. So I started working very closely with yoga philosophy, and I read numerous books. I can say that I read probably hundreds of books. So I'm a big reader, and I also believe that we can communicate with our spiritual teachers just by reading the books. And yeah, I believe that the books guided me in a way, they provided me signs on my path towards personal development, and that helped me tremendously in my self discovery journey. So I realized that my view of the world is more metaphysical, is very spiritual also, and I believe that we are spiritual beings and we are just living temporarily in human bodies. So you would ask me, so how am I so sure about that? So what is the certainty? Material science tells us that we're not spiritual, right? So there is no God, and we cannot prove scientifically that God or any other dimensions of life exist. So for me, if looking back into my childhood and into my life, I realized that with my deep meditation, with my deep self reflection, there were multiple signs on my way that guided me towards spirituality. So I can give you a few examples. So when I was a kid, I always thought that I'm not very alike to my parents. And that was quite interesting because you usually expect kids to be very similar to parents. And I thought that maybe I am biologically, of course, their kid, but on some other dimension of life, I'm very different from my parents. So I was very interested in creative pursuits, and my parents, they are engineers, so they are very scientifically oriented people. So they are very mathematically oriented people, while I am more into humanitarian sciences, more into philosophy, psychology. So I started writing books when I was around 5 years old. So I was just barely able to write, but I thought that my passion is to share my knowledge with the world. So I wrote a few books as a kid. Of course, they're quite interesting and My parents, I think they still keep them. So I always felt there something creative in me that really needed expression. So as I was growing older, the school years, they really transformed me in a way that I became more similar to other people. So that is what happens when we go to school. We experience homogenization. We experience the idea that we need to be similar to our peers, to our classmates, and we are experiencing the same curriculum at school and frequently forget about our true personality and true interests. So at school, I became very, I would say, very passionate and towards high achievement. And I think there was something in me that was very pushy. So I wanted to have the highest grades at school and I wanted to have the best possible outcomes for all my school projects. So, very ambitious person. And of course, I think at that point I lost touch a little bit with my soul, with with who I am internally, striving to become recognized in the external world. So afterwards, I started to um, think about university. I started to apply for universities, and my university life was great. And again, I was very ambitious. I was very motivated to achieve best results and build strong professional career. After my undergraduate degree, I moved abroad and started to study my master's. I did quite a bit of international travel at that time and I was very ambitious. So after my master's right away, I was admitted to a PhD program. So I thought that education, being in education is really my true passion, is really my purpose in life. And in a way, it is really a big motivation for me still. I I believe that teaching is my passion. Working with people is my passion, but probably not within the strict confines of universities or schools, but in a more um, in a freer and more liberal type of formats. I would also believe that my family and my ancestry affected my passion for teaching. So both of my grandmothers, they worked as teachers at school, and I definitely have something in my DNA or in my personality that strives towards teaching, and I felt that when I applied for PhD, I was at the right place. So, and I finished my dissertation, which took me 4 years in total. And I decided to, after that, to apply for academic jobs. So, and I got a job at a university and yeah, worked for quite a while at a university. And at some point during this experience, I discovered that I lost sense of meaning completely. And a lot of people would say, "Oh, okay, so that means you are depressed, right?" So, and there is a lot of tendencies in contemporary world to say, okay, so you are sad and you are not motivated, you need to take antidepressant medications and it will help you to feel better and happier. This was not really my path in life, so fortunately I found spirituality, I found yoga teachings, and at that point in life, I started following a few yoga teachers and specifically watching their lectures that covered a lot of psychological questions that I had in my life and a lot of uh, questions about meaning. And that really was such a transformative experience in terms of understanding the different dimensions of philosophy of life. And I'm not sure why, but philosophy is not a really big thing in contemporary Western societies, and we are so much oriented towards practical subjects at school and universities, but philosophy is so fundamental for our well-being and understanding our place in the world. So I found my philosophy of life. So yoga is very much close to my heart, and I felt it immediately. At that time, I also started practicing uh, meditation. So I did yoga asanas, yoga exercises for quite a while. And everyone who practices yoga knows that yoga consists of multiple steps. And of course, asanas is just one step. Ultimate goal of yoga is liberation of our minds and of our consciousness, and therefore meditation is the most crucial part of yoga. So for me, when I tried several meditations, I was meditating quite a lot during the COVID pandemic. I was meditating after that as well, and because I had some free time. And these meditations were very transformative to me in the sense that for the first time in my life, I felt home. I felt that I'm needed and there is a place for me in the world. So, one time I remember I practiced one type of meditation where you have a mantra that you repeat in your mind. It is a silent meditation that you constantly repeat one mantra and focus on its main idea. And after practicing it for 30 minutes or an hour, I felt such strong sense of love and strong sense of compassion and internal wisdom, and I felt light and happiness, and it was hilarious in on many levels. I think that I've never really experienced anything like this before. So I think the universe showed to me that there is something beyond the realm of physical that is, yeah, that is just completely transforming our personalities and transforming our sense of the world and our being in the world. So I had a few transformative experiences in meditations that really showed to me that spiritual world is not a mystery or is not something that people just invent to survive their horrible lives, because for most spiritual people, for most people, we definitely struggle with a sense of, is it real? Is the spiritual world, is it actually existing, or is it not real? Is it a product of our crazy imaginations? And of course, we hear a lot from people around us that, yeah, it is all fake. There is nothing beyond the material realm. So for me, there were several experiences that actually showed that spiritual life is very much real. There is so much beyond our material existence on this planet. When I was a kid, also I did some spiritual healings, and I remember I was sick one time, and my my mom found a healer that was something new, so that I was a spiritual healer who was doing the treatments, energy healing with hands. And so I definitely felt so much improvement after that healing process. So before the healing, I experienced low energy, I experienced extreme fatigue. And after I started doing this healing, it was such a transformative process. I realized that I feel so much more energetic. I feel so much better. I experienced some physical, also healings of some diseases. And yeah, I realized it is helping me so much more than traditional medicine with with medications and with traditional approaches. So I think the spiritual healers are really, true spiritual healers are healing and helping us to transform our negative vibrations, our negative emotions. So they are pretty much crucial for our survival on planet Earth. Okay, so in my podcasts here, I would like to share my knowledge as well as my intuition, so my intuitive insights about the role of the spirit in the human life. So, as you know, for yogis, um, we focus a lot on community service. So that is really important for for all yogis. So if we gain any spiritual knowledge, or if we gain any insight into our spiritual nature, uh, the goal is not to just keep it to ourselves, hide it from the world. The goal is actually to be able to share it with people and to transform their lives as well, to make the world a better place. So, with all the spiritual insights, I have tremendous amounts of ideas for different podcast episodes that I would like to just share with you, and to give you hope and to give you a sense of meaning in the world. Because if we lose the sense of purpose and a sense of meaning, that is the most terrible experience we can have for ourselves, right? So I think the main difference in relation to how yogis see the world, we see it as interconnection between mind, body, and spirit. And you've heard it probably multiple times, Mind, Body, Spirit, Mind, Body, Spirit books, Mind, Body, Spirit festivals, and everything we do in our lives, it connects to these aspects. Our contemporary world, it is so much focused on the bodies, on our material aspect of existence. So we try to heal our bodies. We focus on gaining more money, more material possessions, building better houses. So, but what do we do actually for our spirits? What do we do for our minds? So, these days, in the last few decades, we started to focus more on the mind side of our existence. You see now that the aspects of psychology and different counseling services, they become more prominent, and I think that is a great development in human existence. So we start to pay more attention to our crazy minds, and we start to focus more on our peace of mind. With the proliferation of the information we have on the internet, social media, we just have so much in terms of that in our minds, and we just burden our minds with excessive amounts of unnecessary information use, and some of it may not even be um, correct, right? Mind, focus on the mind is crucial, but there is so little that we have in today's world about the spirit, about the third, but the most important aspect of our existence. So, the spirit is our eternal nature, it is our soul, it is our connection to the divine realm, right? So, the spirit in itself is the most transcendental that we have within us. The reason why we are not accessing truly our spirits is because we are not able to just quiet quiet our mind. We're not able to spend time with ourselves in solitary meditation, in solitary retreats. We are too busy with our lives. So we have lost connection with the spiritual realm completely. And my the goal of this podcast is to reconnect you to the intern to the eternal essence of your beings, right? So to discover who you are as a spirit being, how you can develop your spiritual nature, and what are your goals in life? What do you want to achieve as a spirit, right? So we are born here as spirits, and certainly if we reincarnate on earth multiple times, why have we come here? Why are we here? What is our true purpose? What is our goal of being on earth? All of these questions are super important for all of you and for myself as well. So, I want to share with you different steps, different aspects, different views on the metaphysics of our life. And in different podcast episodes, I will share different insights into the levels of being into our eternal nature, what I learned from yoga teachings, what knowledge have I developed myself about the spiritual realm, how can we progress on our spiritual path, and my goal with this podcast to get you closer to your own soul path on earth, to become more inspired, to become more motivated, to find your true nature and true level of being and your true identity and shine like a diamond.